I think the Truthy project is an excellent example of both being able to identify astroturfing and trying to detect others gaming this emergent system, trying to manipulate this open system.
Right.
I'm curious sort of how you approach that particularly, difficult problem.
The relationship between the media and sort of political interests and the public. I think these are all different perspectives on this same dynamic, that we are beginning to treat these social media as sort of with the same frame, so the same way of thinking about traditional media.
Mm-hmm.
It opens up to these new sort of attacks where our sort of basic ways of thinking about trust and reputability can be manipulated. I mean, there was a call, I think it was maybe from the Department of Defense or one of these government agencies, looking for software that would allow somebody to create personas and maintain personas that had, cookies enabled for all sorts of different social media sites, and it would be an integrated profile, and it would have sort of a heads-up display, I think was how it was described, saying this is who you are, this is where you work, this is where you live, these are the websites you're involved with. And it was a way for people to sort of transparently switch between identities and create a false dialogue.
Mm-hmm. And keep the lie consistent, because they were always had that prompt.
Right, and that you could have different people be the same person. And it's like this New Yorker comment on the internet. Nobody knows you're a dog. There's just no way to know. And so how this then feeds into the traditional media, and that Sarah Palin's tweets, for example, are, make the front page of Politico. This dynamic, I think we try to treat this as all being different perspectives on the same system.
Mm-hmm.
And so Truthy was one aspect of that, but we've, got another project in the works that I can't really talk about right now, that I think tackles a different aspect of the same problem.
And do you think there's an opportunity, whether in the hands of citizens or whether in the hands of an arm's length agency, to almost regulate this process? And the reason I ask is here in Canada, we're in the middle of a federal election. And so there's a body called Elections Canada, which in theory is charged with making sure that the parties behave themselves, that they don't, manipulate the system beyond the laws that govern it. And it strikes me that you're almost sort of in the early days of developing either a methodology or a template to almost make sure that people don't game the system, that allows for the openness, that allows for the participation, but prevents the manipulation from, powerful external interests.
Getting back to the point that we first talked about, that sort of social regulation is maybe a good alternative to, an oversight agency. That I think that tools like this that make transparency easier, so that you can understand who the interests are and where the power dynamics are coming from. It's like, ideally, and I don't know, a Wikipedia model for, government accountability. Sort of like, for example, the Center for Responsive Politics or the Sunlight Foundation undertake, which of these are organizations that let you look at where the money in politics is coming from. Crowdsourcing, the Center for Responsive Politics had a project that they crowdsourced to have people figure out which candidates made payments to their spouses and which congressional representatives made payments to their spouses. And it was the kind of research project that would have taken weeks for a small team, but they made the data available in this easily browsable web format, and said, you guys do the legwork and enter it into our database. And, I think it was like over the course of a weekend, they found, payment, sort of, nothing illegal, but just very awkward payments. And I think that sort of approach to the problem of accountability and transparency is very useful.
And do you think there's a critical mass of citizens, of people who, are interested and willing to give that type of volunteer oversight?
That's tough to say. I mean, are you familiar with the website Daily Costs?
Yes.
Okay, this is, I think they have 10,000 people publishing these sort of sub-blogs. So clearly, and, the political news is major on the internet. I think the Pew Center has released studies showing that something like, that web-based news has become second only to television. So, clearly there are people who are interested in politics and are on the web, whether or not I think you just have to be properly motivated.
Mm-hmm.
I think the right frame. So, this is then the onus on the people with the data, saying, here is what we're trying to do, and making it accessible and usable, I think is the challenge. I think there's definitely an audience, but it's very project dependent.